What's up, guys? So it's spring break week and it's really nice out here. Temperatures are really starting to warm up, the trees are blooming, and the grass is starting to come back. And so something I want to talk to you guys about this week is pre-emergent and weed control. And now I know everybody on the internet's been talking about pre-emergent, and it's springtime, you need to be putting that stuff down now. And for many of you in the US, that's true. It's definitely, if you haven't done it, you need to do it, or be thinking about it at least. And so for those of us in the South though, I'm in West Texas, so if you're living in the southern US, for many of us, we've already seen 70-degree temperatures starting about February. And so, you know, if you haven't already done a pre-emergent application, chances are you've already kind of waited too long. You're probably starting to see a lot of weeds start to show up in your yard. And so for us, it's actually a good time is about January to start doing your actual spring application of pre-emergent. And so I actually did do a pre-emergent application on the Bentgrass and then out front on the Bermuda, Celebration Bermuda, back in January, right before we got that snow. And so I haven't had hardly any weed issues happen. The problems that I'm actually experiencing here that I'm going to show you today are here in the Bentgrass. I've got some goosegrass showing up, and that's something I deal with every year, but I'm going to show you how we're going to treat that. And out front I've got some Poa Annua problems that I deal with every year as well, but again, treatable. It's not a major thing to deal with. So I know you're probably thinking, well, you did a pre-emergent while you have these problems. Well, the pre-emergent, I think are real good at preventing weeds. I think preventing grassy weeds is actually a little different animal sometimes. And so I know that back here in the back, I deal with goosegrass this time of year every year. And it's partly due to the fact that I don't do a fall pre-emergent application. Because a lot of times back here, I like to put down some more bentgrass seed and try to push some more growth into the yard back here to kind of recover from the heat stress of the summer and some of the damage from the dogs over the growing season. And so, you know, I kind of pay for it a little bit by not doing that pre-emergent application, but it's really not that bad. I mean, I'm going to use a product here called sulfentrazone, and it knocks this goosegrass out. And then as the growing season starts to continue, we start using growth regulators and liquid fertilizers, and it actually starts to knock this goosegrass out entirely. So you'll see as the season goes on, you'll start to see the bentgrass start to really thrive and everything start to come together. And so today I want to show you guys what I'm dealing with here. I'm going to show you what the goosegrass looks like. I'm going to take you out front and show you what the Poa Annua looks like, because they're both kind of difficult to tell the difference between. And I'm going to show you what the difference is between them. And like I said earlier, we're going to show you how we're going to treat those areas. So back here in the back, you can see I've got, you know, some really nice patches of bent grass happening all along through here. But once we get underneath these trees, you can probably start to see a lot of this lime green. And what that lime green is back here is goosegrass. And it looks an awful lot like Poa Annua because it's got a lot of seed head germination. And so right here, I've got good bent grass around here, but you can see right here in the middle where this kind of lime green area is, I've got some goosegrass. And what goosegrass does is it will have kind of a short root system like this, but it starts to develop this really dense canopy, and that canopy will basically just suffocate and choke out your bentgrass if you let it spread, because it starts to spread laterally, and it spreads by generating all these little seed heads everywhere. And so these seed head characteristics is why it's really hard to determine if it's goosegrass or Poa Annua. So for the longest time I thought it was Poa Annua. But once I finally figured out it was goosegrass, then I was able to start getting a handle on it. And so it's something I deal with here every year, you know, especially underneath these trees. I don't know what it is, but there's some relationship between trees and Poa Annua and goosegrass, because it seems to be that every year, same area, same problem. And so goosegrass is something that when you get it, you want to treat it immediately, because it can really spread quickly. Not only on its own, but by letting your clippings fly, it'll spread really fast. And so we're going to use sulfentrazone to spray this out back here in the back, and just to start to kind of slow it down. That way we can start to push our bentgrass to get it to start taking over really well. All right, so we're out here up front, and I did a perennial rye overseed in the fall, and you can see everything's way overgrown right now. I need to mow. But one of the big issues I always have out here in the spring is I get a lot of Poa Annua. You can see maybe a lot of these seed heads that start to show up right here. I'll show you what these look like. So Poa Annua makes these little seed heads, kind of a long stemmed deal, and so it spreads out everywhere out here. But I don't usually worry too much about Poa Annua because it's actually really easy to spray out whenever we spray out this perennial rye and the Bermuda that we've got underneath here. So once we do that spray, everything will kind of disappear and we won't have any of this Poa Annua problem that we've got over here. But every year I've always got it underneath this tree. It never fails. But we're going to knock that out here pretty soon. So our perennial rye overseed did okay this year. I waited a little too long to put it all down, so you can see some of these bare areas here where you've got dormant Bermuda underneath. But if you look real close, you can see a lot of the Bermuda starting to come up, so it's about ready to come out. Spring is definitely here for us, and so it's time to start our spray to knock out this perennial rye that we've got here. That way we can start working on doing our scalp and preparing our Bermuda for what's to come here in the spring. And so you can see our trees are blooming all throughout the neighborhood. A lot of the blooms are starting to happen, so spring's here, it's go time. So now that I've showed you guys what Poa Annua and goosegrass looks like and what the differences are, let's get rigged up on the sprayer and let's spray out this goosegrass. So to mix this stuff up, you want to load up your sprayer with half the amount of water that you need and then start your agitation. So what the agitation is going to do is it's going to pump water, suck it in from the bottom, run it through the pump, and then drop it out an outlet hose here on the end, so it's going to continuously circulate the tank. That way everything stays mixed up really well. And so for the sulfentrizone product, I've got about 1,770 square feet of Bentgrass right here in this little area, excluding the putting green, because I don't want to spray the putting green today because it doesn't have any goosegrass or Poa Annua in it. And so when I do the math on that, I want to spray it about 3 ounces per acre, and so that comes out to about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Is what I need to mix up with this tank to spray this coverage here on 1,770 square feet. So what the directions say to do is make a slurry. So that just means to add some water into your measuring cup and then mix up the product. And so once it's mixed up, you've got kind of a milky product here. And then directions say then to gradually add it into your tank a little at a time. What you should see is that pump suck that liquid in, start circulating it through your tank. So since that's such a small amount, we're going to let that mix up and agitate for quite a while and make sure it gets all mixed up really well before we go spray it out here on the Bentgrass. You don't want to have a mixture that's too strong or too weak and get some imbalances here. So we're going to let that mix up really well before we spray that. So something I want to point out is if this is your first time putting down a herbicide like this, it's probably a good idea to put that blue dye in your tank. That way you can see where you've been. I've used this sprayer nearly every week through the summer, so I know how it's calibrated. I know my walk speed. I know how many gallons of water it takes to spread evenly through out back here. So that's why I don't have the blue dye in there, because I've spent a lot of time on the sprayer and I know how it operates. But if it's your first time, definitely put that blue dye down. That way you can see where you've been. That way you don't overlap some other places and end up, damaging your turf without intending to. So I'm gonna let that run some clean water through there for a little while. And something I want to talk to you about is, I know safety is kind of a funny topic, but when you're spraying this kind of stuff, make sure you wear the mask and the glasses and gloves and all that. Because these products are a lot different than what you buy like Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever. The stuff you get at the box stores, it has a lot lower use rate, and that way it's kind of idiot proof really, and they do that on purpose so that way you don't damage your lawn by misreading the label and then, you know, complain to them that they've ruined your yard when it's because you misread the label. But it's professional products. We get them from domyown.com, and they're professional grade products, and so it's really important that you know, protect yourself from them, because a lot of that stuff you don't want it in your lungs. They use you know, they alter the chemicals and stuff inside of plants and that's what essentially makes them die. And so you just really don't want that stuff in your eyes, your skin, in your lungs, especially when you're using powders and things like that float around. Especially when you're using a big spray tank like this, you know, at least here in West Texas, the wind always blows 15, 20 miles an hour. And so we've always got to be worried about spray drift and pay attention to that kind of stuff. So you just don't want it to get on your skin when you're doing things like that. All right, so now we got all that goosegrass sprayed here. We're going to give it a couple weeks to let it do its thing. And so what we should start to see happening is that goosegrass will start to turn yellow, and in some cases it'll turn white. And so the action plan moving forward is going to be, we're going to start bringing that mowing height of cut down. I told you before that I mow about 3/4 of an inch back here on the bent grass during the fall, just so it doesn't wear out the turf, and that way the dogs don't wear it out as fast. And so I've actually already started bringing it down to a 1/2 inch height of cut, and we're going to start bringing it down even lower. That way we can start cutting into that seed head germination that's happening on that goosegrass. And so what that'll help do is just take it a notch further, keep the thing from spreading. It'll help knock it out, since it'll be in a weakened state with the sulfentrizone we put down today. And so hopefully here in the next few weeks everything will start looking really nice. I think the bent grass should start to take off. The putting green's starting to look really good, and I'm excited to spray out that perennial ryegrass and start working on the Bermuda out front. And that way I can show you guys what we're going to do with our scalps and verticut coming up. And so as always guys, I hope you're enjoying some of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see you guys in the next one.